We're going to sing a song now. It's called I Stand in Awe of You. I've had to fight the dog off the sofa for this one because he wanted to sit with me as well. But we're just going to sing the first part of this song.
Although we're still in March, nevertheless, it is getting warmer, and you can see the changing seasons in our garden alone. The snowdrops, the flowers have long since gone as far as their peak is concerned. Just a few jaded ones showing. The ramsons are coming through now. Wild garlic, they'll be in full bloom in due course. And this week, I noticed that we've had our first frog spawn appear in one of our ponds as well. Changing seasons. And the Bible talks about seasons in our lives. In Ecclesiastes chapter 3, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 to 8.
I've seen the end from the beginning. I've been before the world began. You have reached to me within my darkness. In the light of mercy now I see. I stand in awe of you.
If you're a fan of 60s music, then no doubt you will recognise the words from the Bible that I read just now. The Byrds recorded that song in the 60s, and it's quite well known, and especially, as I say, if you like that era of music. But it's from the Bible. It talks about seasons. We all know that in our lives, don't we? Anyway, things come, things change, seasons come and seasons go. I was in Sedgley this week. It's a small town right on the very edge of the urban Black Country, and it's where I grew up. I was about 4 years old when I moved there, and in my late 50s when I moved on. And I loved Sedgley. I loved growing up there. I've got some fantastic memories right the way through the years of living there, whether as a child or as an adult. And I guess, although I never really thought about it, but for most of my time there, I thought I would always be there, never move on. I had no desires to move on. But seasons come and seasons go. And I did move on a little bit further out west as opposed to into the urban Black Country. So that suits me as someone who likes the countryside rather than the town. And I do go back there from time to time, been there this week with my wife, and it's always nice to go back, but it doesn't mean anything to me. I'm not saying that I'm glad to get out of it and I hate the place, because I don't. And I never had any bad experiences there. So there's nothing of that sort going through my mind when I say that I'm glad to have moved on or happy to have moved on, accepted that I've moved on, or sometimes just a case of I've moved on, because that's very often what happens in life. We don't necessarily plan, things work out in that particular way, and we move on into a new season. It's nice to go back, but I don't yearn to go back and live there. And sometimes in our lives we do. We live in the past. Maybe we're going through a difficult time in the present. So we want to go back to a physical place where things were much happier. But you can't. Life is about seasons. And those words from the scripture tell us quite clearly that there's a time for this and there's a time for that. There's a time to be there and there's a time to be somewhere else, isn't there, in our lives? If you're going through a season, it can be difficult when your life goes through a change, because we are creatures of habit, generally speaking. We do like our comfort zones. But if you're going through a season in life, if it's a negative one, and it's something that's caused because of bad decisions, then naturally we have to address that as quickly as possible. But if it's one of those seasons that is natural, that is a consequence of change that comes as a natural event in our life, then embrace it. Hold good memories from the previous season, but look forward to making some even better ones in the one that you're about to enter. I hope you've enjoyed our online service today. I started with Dilwyn on the settee, and this is how I'm finishing. He's been wanting to be on here ever since, whether it was my wife playing the guitar or me talking. So he gets his wishes right at the very end. I think he's a little attention seeker, really. He likes the camera, even though he doesn't really understand what's going on. If you're watching this on YouTube, then if you click in the descriptions box, there will be a link that'll take you to the homepage on my website for the Church at Hiraeth. We'd love to hear from you. Maybe you have a song, a hymn, a chorus that you'd like us to sing, or perhaps you'd like something spoken about in the sense of a question that you have, maybe about God, maybe about the Christian life, maybe about life in general. You can post on there. It doesn't have to be with your name either. You can post anonymously. There's no link or anything to who you are. You just post your comment, hit submit, and then I'll pick it up at the other end. We'll be able to talk about that or sing about it, whatever the case may be, in due course. But take on board what we say. If you're not a Christian, if you've never come into that relationship with God, it is a big part of my life. It is who I am. And that's what we try to communicate through our services that we put out online.